Hello, welcome to a new video. As always, thank you so much for being here. Great to have you here. For today's video, I thought we would talk about the elusive inspiración, aka inspiration. How do you find it? Where do you find it? And why is it so hard to find and maintain that inspiration? As someone who is a full-time artist, being inspired is just a part of the job. It's just one of those things that's really difficult to maintain, but when you get it, it's just magical. Anyways, I don't have all the answers, but I wanted to chat a little bit about what I do as a full-time artist to stay inspired. Disclaimer, I do not always feel inspired. Honestly, I feel like most of the time I feel pretty neutral, but occasionally, we all go through those phases of intense inspiration and then intense lows to match. Hopefully some of the tips that I share will help you out if you're feeling like you're in a creative slump or just having a really hard time getting inspired. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's talk about where you find inspiration. Is it purely online? Just Instagram, Pinterest? I love a good Pinterest deep dive every now and then, and there's so much art online to be inspired from. Like, there's so many incredible artists that we have more access to than ever with social media. But when it comes to being inspired, I think it's really important to diversify your sources of inspiration. Personally, I feel like I can't make my best and most original work that just feels like me if I'm looking at other people for inspiration all the time. I think it's really important to look to outside sources, and sources outside of social media and just outside of a computer or phone, period. So here are some sources that I like taking inspiration from. My hobbies, music, movies, going to art museums. I find so much inspiration just being out in nature and being in these like beautifully curated spaces like conservatories or the spheres. Also, new experiences. Just having new experiences, even if it's as simple as ordering something different at your favorite restaurant or going to a new park, like it doesn't have to be groundbreaking, but just any kind of new experience I think is great. And you never know, like you might end up really inspired from those new experiences too. I'm also really inspired by conversations with friends. I really treasure my friends' perspectives, and I just love it when we're talking and laughing and, they share a really unexpected perspective or something new, or just like laughing and chatting together. It's just like the best feeling. Another thing that can inspire you to make some artwork is your feelings. Look, I have a lot of feelings. They can be very intense sometimes, and sometimes the best way for me to process them is to make artwork about it. Anyway, I had a moment a couple of weeks ago where I was going down kind of like an existential spiral. It happens a lot. And I knew that if I just kept on going down that spiral, it just wasn't going to lead anywhere good. Like if I just followed that anxiety, I was just gonna have a meltdown. So I just sat down and I made artwork about it, and actually made this piece that I posted on my Instagram. I'm really happy with it, and I actually ended up feeling a lot better after, which is surprising because I didn't really expect that. But yeah, I honestly felt kind of relieved just to get my feelings out there and put all that anxious energy into making some artwork. So you may not expect your own anxiety and feelings to fuel your creativity or help you feel inspired, but sometimes it can. Moving on, I'm definitely someone that's inspired by everyday moments, or even just like everyday objects in my apartment. Like I made an illustration inspired by my disco ball planter, which is right up there. I don't know if you can see it, but I made an illustration inspired by that. I've also illustrated my desk area. I love being inspired by like just everyday objects and areas, even just in my apartment. I really enjoy trying to capture the world around me in my own style. It's a really fun challenge, and I honestly feel like it helps me develop my own style even further. So yeah, everyday objects can be a really fun thing to illustrate. Whether it's a vase full of flowers or like a stack of books or even your pet. That's actually a good idea because I haven't drawn Fern yet, and I feel like he'd be a good subject. But yeah, I feel like there's just endless things in my apartment that I could be inspired by. Also, when you make artwork that is inspired by your own feelings, your life experiences, your space, I feel like it is just so original and unique to you and is so hard to replicate because it's your experiences, it's your life, it's your apartment, it's your pet. I feel like there's always inspiration everywhere. It can just be a little harder to find sometimes. If you watched my previous video or follow me on Instagram, you might know that I love plants. I'm a huge plant enthusiast, and it has just turned into this amazing hobby that just brings me so much joy. Some of my favorite things to do are just going to plant shops, going to plant events. I love importing plants. It's like a really fun challenge to try to rehab this plant, and then, you know, if you're successful, it just grows into this gorgeous, beautiful, rare plant that you might not have been able to have otherwise because they're just not available here. I love going to parks and conservatories, and most recently I went to the Amazon Spheres, which was just incredible. It was like a really futuristic conservatory with just the most amazing collections and specimens of insanely rare plants. Anyway, I love this hobby because it has just turned into such a genuine love and passion for plants, and I haven't felt this excited about anything in a really long time. I think I'm at a point with my art that sometimes I feel a little bit jaded at times. You know, it literally is my job, so sometimes it really does feel like a job. I know there's that quote that's like, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, and that's just kind of bullshit. Because your passion can definitely feel like work, and sometimes it is not fun, and you know, sometimes you take on projects just to pay the bills, not because they're just like super fun. Like, not every project is going to be amazing. Most of my projects have been super fun, but you know, sometimes they're a little more difficult. Anyways, whenever I feel like I've kind of lost that spark and that motivation to make with art, I feel like I can turn to my plants and then find that that spark is still there. Like, I can still enjoy things, I'm still excited about things. It's just been slightly redirected. Art has consumed my entire identity for so long that I never really thought there would be room for anything else, but it's been really nice to see that, you know, I can be a multifaceted person. I can have lots of different interests and passions, and you know, while art will always be my first love, I'm very passionate about art. There's room for other things there as well, and my hobbies honestly help me feel inspired. And sometimes my plants show up in my work. Like, I made this piece for Adobe where I'm just like sitting on a cloud playing my bass, just surrounded by plants, and that just feels so me. It's probably one of my favorite things I've made to this day. As someone who does art full-time, this is my career, I think it's really important to have hobbies. With that being said, I think it's really important for me to have boundaries when it comes to my art. Having hobbies outside of visual art, I feel like really helps with that. And you know, sometimes I really just need to take a step back from my work, have some separation from it, especially if I'm going through kind of a rough patch or just having a hard time with a project. I feel like having some separation from it is honestly so important. In our hunt for inspiration, I feel like sometimes we get so wrapped up in it that you might not realize that maybe you just need a break. Like, how are you feeling inside? Like, what's going on in your life? Are you really busy? Are you burnt out? Are you feeling okay? I feel like all of those things, how you're feeling physically, how you're feeling mentally, really affects your inspiration and your motivation and your will to create. And maybe something as simple as just going outside or planning a fun activity is what it takes to just kind of kickstart that inspiration. I know that I hit a point last year where I was working on a few different really demanding projects, and I felt ragged by the end. I was so tired. I felt like I had just zero creativity left in me, and I actually had a trip planned with some friends to go to a nearby island, and it was just what I needed. I just needed to get out of my apartment and have some good food and just hang out with some friends. We ended up walking around this really cute town and getting some pizza and eating it on the beach, and it was just perfection. And then once I got back home, I just felt so much better and just ready to tackle these projects. I'll be the first to say that I definitely do not feel inspired all the time. As an adult with lots of anxiety and stresses and bills and all these, you know, icky adult things, it can be really easy for just like the heaviness and busyness of life to get to you. And sometimes that just kills your creativity and your desire, motivation to make anything. So this is just a reminder to take care of yourself, check in with yourself. If you need a break, take it. And just pay attention to how you're feeling and get to know your personal warning signs for burnout. At this point, I've been burnt out many times and I've felt creatively empty more times than I can count. But now I can recognize the warning signs and I know when I need to make a change. I don't know about you, but it can be really hard for me to get myself to go outside, especially in the winter here in Seattle. The world just is a little quieter and there's not as much going on. But that doesn't mean that you can't go out and still find some fun things to do. For example, I really love going out to my local coffee shop and getting an oat chai. That's my go-to drink. It just makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside, and it's just my favorite thing in the world. Also, the barista knows my name, and it just feels really special every time we go because it feels like we're pals. Also, I love going to parks. Seattle is blessed in the parks department because there's so many incredible parks to visit. I love going to Gasworks Park. It's one of my favorite parks in Seattle. I just love seeing how tiny people look walking on the hill and just gazing out on the water and looking at the Seattle skyline. It's just gorgeous. It's my favorite park, I think, ever. I also love Green Lake, but Gasworks is just such a great park. You can just take a blanket out there, lay out on the grass, have a picnic. So like visiting a local park can be really fun. I'm someone who does not like deviating from their routine, and you will not find me outside my apartment past like 7 p.m. Like, I'm home. You're not gonna get me out. But sometimes it can be fun to break up the routine and go to like a concert or something. A band I really like that I hadn't seen in a long time came to Seattle, and their concert was like on a Tuesday night or something random. And when the time came, I was like, I don't really want to go, but I should. And I'm really glad I did because it was so fun. I feel like I have endless nights to just stay in and watch TV, and that's not what I'm gonna remember when I'm old. What I'm gonna remember is the random Tuesday night I went and saw Pond, and it was a really good time. Also, it's not every day that you can just go see really cool artists perform. Plus, you're supporting other artists, so you should go to the concert. Anyway, these are some things that I do regularly or have done in the past that are just really fun activities, and they're pretty low cost. Okay, now that I've talked about all the different sources of inspiration and things you can do to help yourself feel better and get more inspired, I thought I would talk about actual things that have been inspiring me lately. So I've been super inspired by this book lately called Cocina Mexicana. It was actually gifted to me by someone that follows me. Belle, if you're watching this, thank you again. And this book is so cool. It's actually a Mexican cookbook that was published in 1969, and it has just the cutest illustrations. Like, the colors are so vibrant, and it shows everyday scenes from Mexico, and they feel super authentic. The recipes seem pretty authentic too. Anyways, I'm just so inspired by all these colors. Like, look at how bright these colors are. And I love this little guy with the helados cart. I will never get over these spreads. Like, look at how stunning. Again, the color. So cute. Another book I've been really inspired by is this book about Florida. It is incredible, like huge source of design, illustration, and photography inspiration. It was illustrated by an artist named Gabriel Alcala, and I'm obsessed. Love his work so much. And is this not the most perfect shade of pink you've ever seen? So good. I keep it on my desk because it's so pretty and so pink, and it's just like a great source of constant inspiration. I really love being surrounded by books, zines, magazines. People make really cool stuff, and I want it all, especially if it's colorful. I tend to forget that I even have a lot of these, and then I find them all over again. And going through them is almost like seeing them for the first time. I just love it, and they're just such a great source of inspiration. I've amassed quite the collection over the years. I have a whole shelf full of zines and art books, and it's honestly one of my favorite gifts to get. One of my close friends actually got me a subscription to this really cool magazine that I'm looking at right now called Broccoli Magazine, and she got me a year-long subscription to it, and it's just so fun to be able to get that in the mail every quarter. So highly recommend. If you have a print lover in your life, that could be a really great gift. I've also been really into records recently. There's a record shop in Fremont called Jive Time, and I just love going there. You're just guaranteed to find amazing inspiration everywhere you look. Look at these records I got. The disco ball and the neon disco type, like so cool. Also, you can support a local business. Record shops are so cool. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here. Hopefully this video was helpful for you. And if you're struggling to find inspiration, I hope that you can apply some of these things to your life and hopefully, get out of that slump and start making things again. I don't have all of the answers. I'm definitely not an expert, but these are just things that I've learned along the way as a freelance artist. And I definitely have times where I do not feel inspired. Honestly, I feel pretty neutral most of the time. I don't feel like crazy inspired or, completely burnt out, which I think it's a good place to be. But yeah, I definitely apply these to my life. And yeah, I think it really boils down to just taking care of yourself, checking in with yourself, having new experiences, talking to people, and finding enjoyment and fulfillment outside of art, especially if you are a full-time artist. I think that's really important. But yeah, if you have any tips of your own, I'd love to hear them. I'd love to hear how you guys find inspiration in your own lives. If you found this video helpful and would like to see more of my content, go ahead and like and subscribe. It really helps me out as a creator, and I would love to have you here. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time.